past, you said that you could beat Bruce Lee in a fight just because there's a sheer size difference. What if you and Bruce Lee were the exact same size?
If Bruce Lee were to fight a professional fighter that's his size, it'd be very difficult for him to beat that person because Bruce Lee was not a fighter. That's not his skill set.
He's an actor.
Yeah, he's a martial artist, the greatest martial artist who ever lived. Theoretically, everything, the way he lived, but he's not a fighter. It's a whole different skill set. It's ugly.
Okay.
You trade blows. You see people who are 132 pounds fight each other. It's like Ren and Stimpy. They beat the shit out of each other and nobody falls out.
Right.
They hit each other 100 times in a round. You understand? That shit's ugly. So you can't tell what's going to happen. It's just not fair for me to say to a professional fighter who's been hit in the head thousands of times and fight a guy who doesn't and say that you guys are equal. In the past.
So before we get into the more lighthearted side of the video, I did want to just clarify a couple things on Michael Jai White's claims. First and foremost, in the original podcast where he talks about how he would beat Bruce because of size differential, the girl asked, does size matter? And then, of course, he's just trying to impress her, so he makes a wisecrack about how it absolutely does. But the fact of the matter is it absolutely does not. And this has been proven multiple times over. There are several fight records throughout all different types, boxing, MMA, you name it, where much larger men have been taken down by guys smaller than them, usually by exploiting some sort of technique or tactic in the ring that the other opponent just didn't see coming. The most famous is probably the Muhammad Ali thing, the whole, I believe it's the rope-a-dope, just ride the ropes for a minute, let the big guy tucker his ass out, then tear him apart, So it's kind of funny that he would claim that size makes up all the difference when we literally have world famous accounts of how it just doesn't. Then there's also the idea of Bruce not being a real fighter. That also isn't valid, because number one, we weren't talking about Bruce fighting real fighters. We were talking about Bruce fighting Michael, and Michael is not a real fighter. And maybe once upon a time, I'm not going to look up his record, okay, but he's an actor, the same as Bruce is an actor, and that's the point that Michael is making, is that an actor is not a legitimate fighter. Therefore, Michael has inadvertently disqualified himself from the conversation, right? So that's one. Even if in Michael's early years he did fight, you're not a fighter if you're not currently fighting, right? Isn't that the mentality? That if you are not actively in combat, you are not able to claim being a fighter. So it's like, if you're 58, what difference does it make if you used to fight when you were 23? It's like those credits don't transfer over. You don't still qualify as a legitimate fighter if your last real fight was 30 plus years ago. It's like that doesn't count. So Michael's discredited there. There's also the idea that even if Bruce were fighting a quote real fighter, Michael kind of makes a point to Bruce's favor, whether he realizes it or not. There's an amazing clip on the Joe Rogan Experience. Go check out his channel. Chances are you probably already watch his content. But the fact of the matter is, they talk about this very phenomenon where real life fighters, ones that wear belts around their waist, like not just amateurs, but like the badasses, like some of them get wrecked in the streets too, and the reason why is because they're trained to fight other fighters, using similar, if not same techniques. And they're all playing by the same rules. There's a line that they're not going to cross because that's how they're trained. But when you throw a quote real fighter in with a complete rando who isn't using proper techniques and he's just going buck wild, and it's all chaos and there's hands and feet flying everywhere and he may have bit you, like what the hell is that? And like, you know, of course there's going to be some groin strikes, you know, below the belt. You know, it's like, you never know what's going to occur in the wild, you know. So it's like a real fighter can't prepare for absolute chaos. Now, with proper training, you can increase your odds of fighting back, and that's the whole point. You know, train enough to be aware of your surroundings, to be able to adapt to whatever's thrown at you, and hopefully survive a situation. But it's all on chance, you know, it's not a guarantee. That's why there is no one definitive style that outranks another, you know. And go watch the Ip Man movies, man. He literally says, I believe in the first one, where they point out the concept that it's not the style, it's the man. You know, it's your understanding of your technique and your opponent. You know, that's what counts. It's your understanding of the martial arts and your understanding of your limitations and what you are capable of versus what you're not, and your opponent. You know, how is my opponent behaving? What is he thinking? You know, like, can I manipulate how he thinks? You know, if I can get inside your head a little bit and kind of, you know, maybe I can get you a little stir crazy up there to the point that you can't even focus on the next move because you can't even think straight. You know, it's like, there's a lot of variables, but ultimately, Bruce not a real fighter? Sure. Michael not a real fighter? Yeah. You know? And so it's invalid. Fighters can get wrecked by, you know, even legit fighters can get wrecked by just random dudes. It's also depends on the durability of the person in question. You know, they literally, I think it's boxing that coined the phrase, glass chin, you know, like just that sweet spot, just one tap, doesn't even have to be much, and boom, done, out, you know. And quite frankly, memory goes back to that old lady. There's a video somewhere, I hope it's still on YouTube. I know, morbid thought, I'm not supposed to laugh, but I find it personally funny. Guy, I guess, dies, killed by 80-year-old lady. Turns out grandma was a karate champion in her day, like, or a black belt or something, I don't know. But he tries to snatch her purse and she doesn't let go, and on the yank back she delivers a strike to his throat and crushes his windpipe. I don't know if the guy lived or not, it doesn't really matter. But it's still hilarious to think that a young man in his prime was dropped by an 80-year-old lady with one strike, you know. So with that in mind, right time, right place, like right moment, you know, anyone can take anyone in any given moment, period. So I know I'm a little late to the party on this one, but I kind of wanted to talk about Michael Jai White's claim that he could beat Bruce Lee. The thing is, I don't think it's quite fair that he felt the need to apologize for making such a claim, you know, and the idea that he somehow offended Bruce's family with that is kind of ridiculous to me. I highly doubt they care, you know. I think Bruce's legacy is secured enough that it really doesn't matter that a random person says they can or can't beat him in a fight. You know, it's like he either cemented his name or he didn't, you know. But that being said, we don't know how good Bruce truly was or wasn't. You know, it's like, how much data do we really have on this guy other than a bunch of hearsay of things that occurred in his life, you know? So, like, he wasn't a professional fighter, you know, but that doesn't mean that he has no fight experience, you know? Like, there's lots of people that used to just fight to fight, like in backyards and whatnot, and, you know, and think about this, YouTube, modern day technology, you had guys like Kimbo Slice literally filming themselves in their backyards, You know, so who's to say that Bruce Lee wasn't the Kimbo of his era? He just didn't record himself doing it. Like, you know, so it's one of those things that one could speculate either direction. You know, it's like, did they have the pads with the sensors to record like the force behind the blow, you know, back then? And even if they did Bruce ever record his strikes, you know? What is their reach? You know, is Bruce faster or slower than Michael? Is Michael stronger than Bruce? You know, it's like there's a lot of variables at play in a fight, and who's more knowledgeable? You know, it's like Michael seems to be pretty well rounded as a fight guy, but you know, Bruce also literally invented a style. You know, he took different elements of different styles and blended them together to get something that worked for him. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that, like, I think that Bruce would have loved the idea of the two of them going at it, you know, that I don't think Bruce would have been offended at all, and therefore I don't think we should be either. You know, that Bruce would have seen it as an opportunity to exchange ideas on the martial arts. You know, I'm sure that he would have loved going back and forth with Michael on maybe the more philosophical nature of fighting. You know, it's hard to say exactly, but I don't know. I'd still pick Bruce. You know, no offense to Michael. And I love Michael, you know, Spawn. I think that Phoenix Uprising is an underrated movie. It's kind of made on the cheap side, but it does have some pretty good talent in there. Also has, I forget the guy's name. I'll mention him in a different video in the future, but he's like the capoeira guy, you know, super badass. Very pissed off that the Twilight series wasted his potential, and that literally kills him in like 5 seconds. You know, it's like, why'd you even have him in your movie? You know, like, you got Taylor Lautner, who is like this super badass ninja dude that no one realized he had that potential. Boom, explodes on the internet. We all get excited. They throw the capoeira guy in the franchise, and you're like, oh shit. It's a vampire capoeira master versus a werewolf ninja flipping crazy kid. It's like, this is going to be a sick ass fight. Like, it was the only time in the franchise that at any point I got hyped. Like, you know, I'm like slapping my friends because, like, I'm there with my gal pals. Like, they're there for the romance and, like, ooh, sparkly vampire bullshit. I saw those two on the screen at the same time. I got excited, you know, because it's like, it's about to go down. You don't even know. And then nothing happened. You know, and that's what was unfortunate. You know, it was a total psych out. But anyways, like, Michael's the best. Bruce is obviously the best. You know, and I don't think that it matters who would win. I think no matter which of them wins, we all come out on top for getting to witness such an experience. And that's how I feel about it. You know, I think Bruce would look at it the same way too. It's an opportunity to explore the martial art together and learn, you know? And I think in that aspect, there is no losers. Just saying. So, just so that you're aware that I'm aware, on playback I did hear it. I was constantly saying, you know, like every 5 seconds, like, you know. And to poke fun at myself, because I caught it, we're gonna go ahead and give me a Sherbatsky.
That night, we found out just how much she said it.
Oh, that's great. But,
Nice.
this wasn't your first spelling bee, was it?
Nope, third.
Oh, good for you. But,